Welcome to Body of Light, episode 15, featuring Alex and Allyson Gray. So here we are at this episode 15 interviews about rainbow body and light body, which started out as just being curious, asking questions that I really wanted to get answered that I wasn't seeing or reading or hearing answered, has developed now to this point to interviewing some very well-known, if not the most well-known, visionary artists of our time, Alex Gray and Allyson Gray. Their work is greatly influenced, as they say, by light body, and Alex's also by rainbow body, for Alex is a practitioner and scholar of Tibetan Vajrayana Buddhism, as well as many other spiritual practices. So I thought it was crucial and very important to get their perspective and ask them some questions that I've been asking everyone. For light body and rainbow body is a great influence to how they live and why they create their art. We go over questions and topics such as what was their time like studying and being in the presence of Namkhai Norbu? How does light body and rainbow body influence them, their lives, and their art? I asked them, why does the rainbow body happen? Does it happen? Is it a myth? Are these stories? Or is this something that actually happens? And if it does happen, why? What's the point? What's the point of doing all the practices and having this possibly be a goal? I asked them one of the main questions that I ask everyone on this series, which is, can Westerners on the spiritual path who are engaged in the Western life, family members, householders, people who have kids, working, running businesses, living in the city or rural, tending to animals, living in the hustle bustle of life, can we attain the same level as spiritual enlightenment or mastery as these beings that have rainbow body or light body occurrences? Can we attain the same level of love and mastery of mind, body, emotions, compassion, unconditional service and alignment to God's source energy? Can we as Westerners engage in the world get to the same level as these beings and these masters, whether we call them ascended masters or these rainbow body masters? Can we do it without leaving the Western world? Can we do it while involved in daily life as a Westerner engaged in Western affairs? I asked them, of course, how do psychedelics play a part and a role in creating a light body, reaching a state of enlightenment, unconditional love, clarity, and alignment with God's source energy? And does it have a role in maybe the rainbow body development or transformation that happens to some of these beings? Are beings who attain rainbow body and dissolve into light while they're alive or at the time of death, like Padmasambhava, human like us? Or are they galactic from some other planet visiting, sharing knowledge, truth, wisdom about rainbow body? So this and much more we go over in episode 15. So please enjoy Alex and Allyson Gray. My first main question is, I know, Alex, you studied with Namkhai Norbu. Did both of you spend time with him? And if so,
Yes.
can you, okay. So can you just give me a little bit of like, what was that like? And what were the main points? Like, what did you learn from him about the subject? And we can just start.
Well, Norbu mostly wrote about that. So I had read somewhat about the lore, and I think I might have first encountered it in a serious way with Norbu. You know, like, what? What are you saying? Because he described Garb Dorje's kind of last transmission, and it has to do with like he's in the rainbow body, basically, when the last transmission is dropped. And so, it's kind of like the Westerners who are not hip to the story about, the rainbow emanations that occur when the Tolku or the great sage passes on, and they have like rainbows shooting out all some around the sun, and all kinds of crazy displays are like going off in the space around. That's not the classic rainbow body, but those are still like other kinds of like uh, tangential light storms that occur, and they're so deft in some way that there was a supposed materialization that arrived in a little golden casket with those three statements, you know, the three nails that Garib Dorje gave. Uh, so that's like one of the amazing, because he had to explain the teaching. He was wanting to get to the three nails, but he had to go through the rainbow body to get there, you know? And so in describing that, then that opened up the door to a lot of other lore, you know, and he knew people who experienced others or knew others that, and it sounded like there were, um, you know, when the Chinese came in and stuff like that, there were a few weird encounters with, you know, the interrupted kind of rainbow body kind of shrinkages, you know, and things like this, you know, incomplete uh, rainbow body because of the interruptions. And but these are only anecdotal reports I ever hear about these things really, you know, I never hear about a reporter from the Indian, you know, Times goes up and investigates supposed, you know, uh, you know, the villagers have been waiting here, or we've been, you know, we've seen the yogi seal himself in a tent and he's been here with cameras have gone nonstop, you know, and now, you know, it's been that whatever day period that they've asked for, you know, and we're going to open up the tent and what do we find, you know? And so just the idea of what was left of the body uh, in the nails and the hair and toenails and various things like this, you know, uh, uh, as kind of an end result of the dissolution of the actual elements of the body into the essence of the elements of the body, and the that that happened over a period of time for um, you know, for those individuals that were able to accomplish it. And then he also spoke of Padmasambhava, who, as far as I know, is like a special case in terms of rainbow body. You know, it was kind of like he like willed it and just like sayonara, you know, it's kind of like fading out, you know, like a orb of a flying saucer or something like that. He was able to melt himself into his essence and remain available to his disciples and devotees, and is probably ministering to the most he's ever dealt with at this point, you know. So I think he's like this rare visionary uh, being. Uh, I suppose there are others. I mean, I have a special connection with him, but I don't know. That's were some of the things that he spoke of. You know, so it gave me an appreciation for here's an intelligent man, Namkhai Norbu, really amazing genius and spiritually realized person. He actually believed that that could happen, you know. And so it gave it more credibility.
Thank you, Alex. Allison, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, I would only say that my relationship with Eastern religion began when I was 19 and began meditating with Yogi Bhajan. And later in 71, I read Ram Dass's Be Here Now. And of course, that influenced me greatly. I grew up in the Jewish tradition. And although, not the best practitioner, I am devoted and have studied, my tradition and love it. But really, my beginning with Buddhism, my uh, learning about Buddhism really came through Alex, who is, my greatest teacher. And we did attend many of Namkhai Norbu's retreats and talks with our daughter, who, learned the 7-line prayer and sang it publicly for 1,000 people when she was 4 years old. So you know, we were light practitioners early on, but Alex has been a scholar since early in our relationship. When we came together, he was studying, the existentialists and, really a lot of other philosophy, but then Buddhism captivated you after psychedelics. And so after our first psychedelic journey, Alex's first psychedelic journey in my apartment when he was 21, was like brought God, I think, to Alex, who was basically an atheist at the moment, but like then a mystic, the next moment, the next day. And that's what brought us together, because I had had this experience before I went off with Yogi Bhajan. I just like, now what? What am I going to do? I saw God. So, but going with Alex to retreats with Namkhai Norbu and many other teachers. Whenever there was some great teacher, including Dalai Lama, whenever he was, we were with the Dalai Lama when he first came to the United States. He went to Harvard to teach Mahayana, a 5-day course, and Alex and I got tickets to do that because he worked at Harvard Medical School. So we both got to be in that class, and that was really a major introduction for me, to be in a group of such highly learned Buddhists. You know what I mean? It was like translated by. No, I don't think it was translated by Bob Thurman, but but we were all
No, it
there.
was Jeffrey Hopkins.
Jeffrey Hopkins,
Yeah.
that's right, that's right. So anyway, my experience went deep with Alex on, the retreats and the visiting and the listening and the lecturing. And then, of course, we have a practice of reading out loud to each other. So we've read, and so I have been privileged to, be carried through a number of books, although Alex's, library is vast. So he's the learned one on the subject of Buddhism and also Sufism and other interesting Eastern religions. So I've been the beneficiary of that learning sometimes, and that's I mean, in the Jewish tradition, I don't think, I mean, I'm not that learned, but I don't think that there's much talk at all about the afterlife or about what remains of the body or any kinds of rituals around that. I'm not learned about the ancient traditions of burial and things like that. But it is the rainbow body is one of the most fascinating and sort of magnetic stories of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. It's like learning that sticks in your mind. I'm sure our daughter even remembers it, and she was going to retreats when she was 4. So, you know, but yeah, but anyway, I think it's a fascinating idea, and also evidence has been shown, which I think is amazing. Phenomenon like that, you just is unforgettable. So an interesting study. I commend you. Sounds like an interesting movie.
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the things that fascinates me, always has, and really was at the foundation of the sacred mirrors, actually. I did a performance called Life Energy. And so this idea of what are these subtle kind of, I've always thought of them as psychoplasma. You know, what is this self-luminous psychoplasma that courses through us, you know, through all of our channels? And it seems to me that it's the psychic, energetic atmosphere that consciousness can interact with. Consciousness, to my mind, is beyond matter in all forms. It's no thingness, and it's at the basis of everything. It's like that thing that you wake up to that all the sages are pointing to. It's the basis of everything, the primordial perfection, really, because it's not got any qualities. And everything else is qualified in all dimensions, except for the unqualified primordial essence at the foundation of everything that is still always present. And so that transcendent presence is able to most easily manifest a kind of motion on the psychoplasma, a luminous field, like it's like an electrical field, you know, like you come into the contact with something and it has a buzz, it has a aura, it has a felt presence, an electromagnetic, psycho-spiritual presence, a ball of light. You can feel a healer can manifest a ball of light and pass it on, and you can feel the ball, you know, literally kind of like buzzing in your hand. And so it's stuff. And you can call it, it's been called so many different names, you know, but it's really that substance upon which spirit can make an impression. And it's you know, psychic energy, psychoplasma, whatever, then it can, you know, kind of manifest it. And it seems to take a self to bring it into focus. And I'm trying on this idea that the self is the lens of consciousness. And in that way, it's got a flow form that channels consciousness and whatever this psychoplasma is, because it seems like a dynamic and evolving neg-entropic force, a wisdom carrying vapor, you know, a intelligent energy.
Well, that brings me to my next question. There's 3 pieces of art, Alex, that you made. I don't know the names of them, so I'm going to show them to you in the audience.
Yes.
Okay.
We call them the three amigos.
Okay. So that and Allison, with your art, how has your knowledge or actual experience with your own light body or knowledge of light body, rainbow body influenced your art for both of you?
Entirely. Let's just start there. You know, it's you know, it changed our art. I mean, we were together, and when we, I think, made a pact or an agreement, an understanding between us that this was the most important, you know, sort of visual occurrence that we could portray in art. Like being artists, like, you know, if you want to make art, what's the content of your art is the most important thing to think about for an artist. So, you know, what is it going to be? Now it's, and you know, in your 20s you may be, you know, focusing on the self quite a bit. A lot of people in their 20s when they're developing their art are focusing on the self, as we were. And then suddenly, you know, like you have this incredible experience, and you know that what you need to portray is your relationship with the divine, your relationship with the interpenetrating, uh, you know, net, the vast vista of fountains and drains that we all are, really, energetically. You know, so Alex's universal mind lattice was the, you know, it's a big incentive, I think, for Alex to do the sacred mirrors, because he couldn't wait to get to the, you know, the three amigos, the psychic energy system, the spiritual energy system, and the universal mind lattice, which was the dissolution of the physical into this energy grid, this energy lattice that goes on infinitely and is embodied and imbuing every living thing, and even the consciousness of granite, you know, even rock, and it just imbues everything. So, you know, and you see that, you know, it 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 sends you to the greater mysteries, you know, that have been written about and studied and practiced for eons, because these people have had this experience, and you've been privileged to, you know, to recognize it in what it really is, because, you know, you can trip a lot and not see God, you know, but 65% of us in the right set and setting with the right inclination do see, have a mystical experience. And so this is what sent us toward this information, I think, to a large degree.
I think you're right, or at least allowed us a different perspective on the subject, you know, one that is more like, oh, yeah, you do become some ball of luminosity after you pass on. But of course, you could also say that you are always some ball of luminosity, and that perhaps you're just, you know, packing up your things and moving on to the next life, you know, but you are always that ball of light. That was what we got, was that was what was always ongoing. And the physical form was a kind of, you know, adventure in Earth's school, that souls, you know, in various ways have been cycling through. And
Earth School is like part of the training. You know, it's like
yeah,
you know, you were sent to do this training, but there's this eternal that you experience, and that you want to seek by going into great religions like Buddhism, the philosophy of Buddhism, and the practice.
yeah. Who has languaged this confounding, ineffable, infinite intelligence and consciousness that is the fabric of things that we emerge from? And so you look for, and Buddhism has a lot of models in that way, but so does a lot of the mystical traditions. Because I was going to say, you know, like, think of the burning bush moment, you know. Now, where is the burning bush? Is it out there, or is it in there?
Well,
And it's
yeah.
kind of like, although it's experienced out there, this kind of painting would say that like we're projecting the reality that we're surrounded by, and so sometimes we can hallucinate or it is always an inner experience. It is not, we're not necessarily seeing everything. We're giving ourselves what we need in order to navigate our lives. But
Well,
this is like saying that we're describing it from within. And so in my imaginings of the burning bush moment, I see a tree of life, and that whole tree of life is lit up like a rainbow body, a kind of, and that is the burning bush, the tree of knowledge that he's gotten the transmission, he's gotten the zim zum,
It got his attention. The tree was burning, but it wasn't being burned up. It was not, it was consumed in flame. It was like it was electrified before they knew what electricity was. It was like electrified, and and it was glowing. He was attracted to it. And it had a voice, or at least he heard a voice. And I think a lot of us have had an experience of hearing a voice, and listen, if we listen for it. But I was going to say about the rainbow body that it is a goal, which is really kind of antithetical in Buddhism. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of an attainment. And it's like, it's the carrot on the stick that says, if you practice a lot and are living a life that's of absolute purity and perfection and following all the precepts and doing everything, and you are right on dude, then you can get into one of these yurts, and and something will remain of you that everybody will revere, and they will know, and they will see, and they will recognize that you were as pure as they always thought you were. You will have lived up to the high standards of your entire community. You'll leave that for them so that they can know that you. So anyway, there's something about it that is the extreme attainment. I don't know whether that is what how you see it, but it's an interesting. I don't know. This is what I took away from what the rainbow body was.
yeah, I agree that it seems that in Buddhism specifically, it is like a target, a goal that they're, because a lot of masters who have rainbow body experiences from my research know it's going to happen. They know when they're going to pass. They go into like a tukdom like state where they're in the meditation posture, their vital signs have stopped and things happen. So my next question is why? Why do you think this is a goal? What do you think? Why do people, some dissolve into light and disappear or leave the relics? Like, why bother? What do you think happens?
Oh my goodness. Uh, Well, it's surprising that people would wonder why, because it's basically proving a worldview. It's proving that something you think is completely impossible or preposterous is actual. And if you can provide proof, it's not an ego trip. It's pointing to the mystery and truth of a tradition. He's transcended way beyond a self and gone into the light. And he's saying, in leaving something behind, so can you.
I think the thing that it's proving also, and I think that was really right on, what you were just saying. It also, it's proving that dying is a choice in every case. I have not seen that many people die, but I know in my experience that it in some ways seems like the moment is a choice. The pain, the suffering is too great, the fear may be too great, the calling to be with your loved ones may be too great to resist. And so in the moment of that, it is a choice. And I think we could say there's exceptions because, of course, there's overdoses that are and sickness and things like that that you would really rather not have. So you're not like, but the moment of it seems like it's an agreement with between you and the Almighty or the All, that this is the time. It's like that moment and you make that choice at that moment.
It seems that most beings that have some sort of that have developed a light body throughout their life, throughout their practice, that die in this way of whether dissolving into light or disappearing into light, however we want to call it. A lot of them, at least the ones we know about or hear about, are monks, sadhus, saints, people living an aesthetic life, not really involved with the world, the city life, the busyness of life. Do you feel that Westerners who are engaged in Western affairs, families, artists, running businesses, sitting in traffic, dealing with worldly things, can attain or reach or allow this same type of mastery, enlightenment, love, whatever you want to call it, as these beings that are having light body death occurrences? Is it possible?
I think that life is so filled with so much distraction. That's the only problem with it. Because certainly you can learn to transcend and meditate while you're in traffic. I mean, I think it's a great practice, really, for us, you know, um, householders. You know, we practice every day, and Dzogchen, of course, promotes that. It's like, just be in practice at all times, be mindful at all times. And so it's a great, practice. But I think for the most part, there's just so many distractions that those of us who are privileged enough to sit day after day in meditation all the time, and just have their food prepared by brothers and sisters, and the cleaning and just everything is regulated, and so I don't know what that life would be like. I have never done that, but it seems like you might be able to achieve it if you could have all the distractions sort of removed from your life, and the pattern of your life just is put forward to you. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like you're right. If that were a kind of collective goal, this brother has the best chance. I think we're going to invest, and to give him the best, and the more that he can stay in that state. But the thing that I learned in my readings was that many times that the practitioners were people who and people who attained rainbow body were not people that uh, were great learned yogis and renowned all over the place and things like that, and had a lot of students and stuff like that. They might be a practically unknown, like a farmer or someone who, like was humble, did their chores and then meditated quite carefully, and had a master that they completely and thoroughly were devoted to, and things like that, and like amazing. It like would shock the entire village and surroundings that so and so decided to go into a tent, and good grief, they didn't come out. And so then they become like, oh my goodness, perhaps we didn't recognize it was someone, uh, you know. But so I think it can happen in, you know, but I think that you have to, it would favor, I'd say, the environment where it has been known to occur. And that as you're saying, the kind of mediated experiences that Westerners have, and the enmeshment in our technology and material world is such that we have not as much time to investigate our own visionary physiology that may be the means by which we could activate our own and begin to activate the light bodies of others. Um, and I think that even if we don't uh, possess the same meditative equanimity and reach the same peace, that enlightenment, nevertheless, or waking up to the kind of foundational Buddha mind, I would argue is probably not changed a whit, and one has to like hold those, the potential of awakening, even in the midst of our mediated technosphere, and perhaps find that it's even more important in this kind of space. And maybe that with your investigations and things, you might find that there are certain things that are trackable and certain things that, um, you know, manifestations of biophotons and things like that can be somehow, you know.
Yeah, what I've found is there's no scientific, no one's ever hooked up like there is a documentary called Tukdom on Amazon, I think, of scientists actually going to people who are in the Tukdom state where you know what you're familiar with Tukdom, where the practitioner is vital signs of stop, but they're still sitting upright in a meditation position or laying down, but their skin, they no rigor mortis happens, the body stays warm, the body doesn't smell for 7 days to 2 weeks or longer. And scientists actually went and would hook and did research on some of the people in that state or right after that state. And that was really fascinating, but no one's ever done it for the dissolving of the body of the elements into the rainbow body. But what I have found is from my own research, commonalities or like um, attributes of these different masters, whether it's what we ascended masters, great saints, or people who have a rainbow body or light body experience, these different ways they lived, qualities, attributes, like how they were, most of them, if not all of them, what I found are they're extremely humble, childlike, complete service to all beings without judgment, immense love. It's like this energy, Alex, you were saying earlier, like you can just feel this liquid love, this bubble, this light that emanates that's from them. And they all have these types of qualities. And that is something that people, I feel, living in the West, we can aim for that, to be in those states as much as we can during all the ups and downs of life. So a question would be, for us Westerners who are on this path, how do psychedelics and even cannabis play a role to help us to realize those states or help us on those paths to attaining this way of being?
Well, like I was saying before, the studies, the several studies, the Johns Hopkins studies and other earlier studies, showed that if you have the inclination towards spirituality and take LSD anyway in a conducive setting without a lot of, negativities on your mind, like you're confronting some major, possibility of upset or something. Um, if you have a mindset that's, fairly stable and that, you have a 65% chance of having a mystical experience. And what does that mystical experience mean? Well, there's a whole list of the criterion of the mystical experience, which we've published, and it's been published, and on the web and everything, so everybody can know what they are. But they do feel like you have had a contact with divinity, a contact with the interconnectedness of all beings and things. You feel at one and unity, and all these words are used to describe the mystical experience. So, not everybody will have that, but when one dose, to be able to claim that. It's very powerful material to know. In fact, and the fact that it's not toxic or addictive is really an extra bonus. So it's like a breakthrough. It doesn't like get you there, but you can never unsee it. That's the thing. It's like, here, this happened to me. The breakthrough for me was in 1971. I'm talking about, like over 50 years ago. So it's still the most powerful experience. I mean, next to my giving birth, which is extremely painful, this is relatively pain-free. It's an amazing opportunity. And I know that more and more people will take that opportunity and have their minds open. And it's really, it's life affirming and building, and has so much positive affect that, for the normal person, I mean, with counting, of course, the dangers and the support that's needed for those dangers. We all know that there's a percentage that is there, but it's very small, and most of us have had incredible breakthroughs that are memorable. So nobody says, oh, did I ever take LSD? I don't really recall. They don't say that, you see, because it's just the most powerful thing. So, but what's powerful about it is that it changes your mind, that you feel that the possibility of unity and at one-ment with the universe is actually you know out there for you if you want to experience it.
Yeah, it's like you discover that it's part of the fabric of your being, or of the foundational fabric of your being. And I think that if consciousness is the frontier, of mystery and the source, really, of everything, psychedelics give us another way to study it, to do research. And they oftentimes will, if engaged in it enough times, wind up with some experience of the light body in some way. They might even see just people glowing, or themselves, or something like that. And, or they might see auras around things, and, or, projections, amoeboid like projections in space and things like this. So at least it softens up your hard ideas about what consciousness and perception of these visionary states and arc fields and things like that. Clairvoyance gets into a place, or, this hallucinosis, like what is happening in your imagination. You're starting to see that your imagination is what you're operating on all the time, you know. Inside and outside, you're generating it in your brain, and you're projecting it outwards, and so if you project it out with a veil of one kind or another, and you start to see that you can unveil different layers that may be actually occurring, or may be artifacts of the substance, we can't really exactly say. But it does give us a new perspective, and I'd say a more kind of strange perspective on reality, that we're seeing that we're generating our, dialing of reality, at a certain bandwidth. And perhaps we can expand that bandwidth, and what is consciousness expansion and opening to Buddha mind in the, after all, it's opening up to what we fully are as conscious beings. What is consciousness in its furthest, widest deepest, highest application. You know, it's all in there. You know, and the interaction with the bioelectric field, or whatever we want to call it, the rainbow body that is unseen, you know, and then is perhaps growing. I think um, I think that you're right. It's kind of interesting to wonder also how potent the light body can be transmitted through photons, you know, in and broadcast and things, you know, like, um, are you familiar with Ted Sirios? The
Let's wait, before we get to that phenomenon.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that we were talking about phenomenon. We're talking about incredible sort of, events of phenomenon. And so I was just going to add that with the burning bush, I've always liked to think of Moses out there, herding all that livestock and living out in the fields and everything in the meadows, and possibly having mushrooms growing on the all that dung that all the livestock is leaving behind. It's like he's out there and taking a little mushroom snack and seeing the burning bush. I think would be an easy thing to have happen. You see, so it's an affect of a breakthrough, which really was there to tell him that it was time for him to go back and free the people. He had left, he had fled, he had abandoned his tribe, like all of his brothers and sisters who were enslaved there in Egypt, and just kind of gone, run away from his responsibility. And it was there to sort of remind him of his responsibility to, make a difference. And I think that's something that we do experience on psychedelics, is this sort of motivation. And we hear voices too. I mean, there's always a takeaway, something that we learn. If there isn't, there should be. Because, you have to look for it a little bit or listen for it a little bit. But really, that's what I think Moses was hearing, was the voice telling him, you have a duty to your people. And so anyway, it gives us all that kind of, I think it could save the world in that way, because it gives us that feeling that we have to have some part in making things better, for our
Yeah,
people.
liberating people. Well, I
Liberation.
think in a, interesting theme, because I mean, it's the season too. It's springtime now, and the liberation themes are percolating, and I think the opening to the subject even is a way of we Buddhists maybe not like the term soul, but we use the term soul renewal, through this creative practice, and we do a light body practice here where we draw, you know, the chakras and things, and imagine the kind of the light body around, and the manifestation of energy through their different centers, and then and then the full chroma and things like that. So there's been a lot of ways after you spend a day drawing the figure like that, spending at least a half hour or more on each kind of pose, and thinking about that center. You're activating and moving up the chakras, as it were, and uh, you feel really renewed after a day of that. You feel really tingly, and so
Well,
I think it does something to activate your own
yeah, to be
light body.
aware of every of your energy systems. And I was going to go back to what you were saying that I interrupted, which was about Ted Sirius. And I just wanted to say about that, Ted Sirius, a thoughtographer, could project his thoughts onto film. And I think that the connection there was the visibility of the invisible, the thoughts that are invisible in our heads being projected onto film. It's a similar kind of, there's a resonance there with, wanting to control our own sort of decay and demise. And there's a kind of an energy that we have control over. Isn't that the isn't that the link between thoughtography and rainbow body?
Oh, I only wanted to mention it like you were saying as a form of psychic luminosity that somehow had an effect on the outer world. It remains a bit of a mystery, but as she was saying that, I think it was dubbed thoughtography. And there is a really pretty amazing book by Jewel Eisenbud, who's a really great parapsychologist and psychiatrist. And he studied Ted, who mysteriously was able to, for a period of his life, able to project images onto Polaroid film from his, and it was studied in all kinds of ways, from a Faraday cage to, somebody else would hold the camera and stuff. And so it's very strange, very interesting, but also luminous and somehow information laden kind of psychic energy.
I got two more questions, and then anything else you'd like to add. Do you feel that these beings that do actually dissolve into light, leaving no remainder, like Padmasambhava, do you think they're human like us or from someplace else, not human?
That's a good one.
I think they're stories. Okay. I don't think that makes them untrue necessarily, but they are stories. So, I mean, I accept them as stories. I accept them as, you know, but because there's been enough evidence of it that you have to say, what, even in contemporary times, that you have to say that it's a possibility. It's not my experience, though. I mean, I just can only say it's a story. And how much evidence is there? I guess there's some pictures since photography came into being. There have been pictures of some evidence, but
Well,
everything, it's a story. Everything is, it's like photography. It's it's a trick. It's a method of recording, but it also can be modified, and so you really don't know. I mean, I don't think the studies have really been done of it. I think that's probably what you would really like ultimately, is that there'd be actual studies, but there's so few cases. There are enough cases, but they're just few. But it would be great, to see whether that was true, I suppose. I don't, I don't hold on to that. I think that's a very, well, it's a very bodied thing. It's bodied. It's like, like I look to spirituality to, I don't know, help relieve me a little bit of that. But anyway, I think it's interesting, though. It certainly is fascinating subject. What were you going to say?
I'm not even sure what the question was. You were
Do you think that they're
asking
aliens,
something about
Alex? Do you think?
the Padmasambhava was an alien or
Yeah,
something like
right.
that. It's Yeah, it's a real mystery. It seems to me that Padmasambhava did exist, and there are some statues that he, agreed appeared like him as well. So he's one of the more substantiated of the. And there, of course, there's all the Terma teachings, and there's other teachings that were left. So I think that it's established that he is a legendary being, but he is also there was a physical being as well. And I think that there is this now light being, and in what dimension they exactly exist in, I mean, they describe it, they'll it, and they're available for your questioning, basically. Do the practices, and you can have conversations with Padmasambhava and work some stuff out and things. So I think that he wanted to make the teachings available, and wanted to make himself available for the devotees that were, benefiting uh, from the Vajraguru. And so uh, so his manifestations they were miraculous during his lifetime. I mean, he would manifest as all kinds of shape-changing, strange things in visionary ways. So, um, who's to say who the heck that was, or is?
Yeah, that's good points and good. And Alice and I agree. It's like there's all these stories, and ultimately, when they go date back so many hundreds and hundreds of years or so, we really don't know what actually happened. There is modern day eyewitnesses, like Father Francis Tiso. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he wrote the book Rainbow Body and Resurrection, where he actually went to the site of Kempo Acha, who is a monk who dissolved into light, who was eyewitnessed by many, the rainbows coming out of him and the shrinking, and then he was gone besides the cloth that was on him. So, but those are still eyewitnesses, and it's not something we really need is we need someone to go out into like Times Square, video cameras, blast into light where people can actually see it, record it. I think that's it's kind of like, I think of it like Sasquatch, like Bigfoot. There's all these sightings, there's all these stories, there's all these little proof, but no one's captured one. No one's actually has a good video like picture of it. I kind of compare them to
Well,
the
it's
two.
like it's like thinking also about the value that the knowing of this has for you, because just knowing that this can exist, or that it has existed and does exist as a potential, does it make you feel more like well, it puts you more in touch with the unknown and the invisible. And so you feel that there is some way that we could affect the invisible. And of course, it's a great teaching that we should, practice more and be more pure and follow the precepts, and then you have this wonderful outcome. And so, if it encourages people to better themselves in some way, or to be better to others, or be more like in service, whatever the good that could come of it, but is there value in knowing that it exists? I think yes, it's a positive affect of having a future that's extraordinary, a death that's extraordinary. It's an extraordinary death. you know we all want that, you know, in a good way.
Yeah.
Everybody plans. I mean, if you have the opportunity and you're not like suddenly killed, or like a sudden death, aneurysm, something like this that just was not anticipated, you can prepare yourself some way. I think that's the other teaching in it, is to prepare yourself, because even a person who was not known, and wasn't famous guru or anything like that, just a humble meditator, uh, still made the provision for themselves to have a yurt and like be sewn up into it, or whatever the ritual is, and have the ritual happen. So there's some intention around there, because they're conscious. They're intentional every moment, and being mindful all the time. And so why wouldn't they be mindful of their death? And why wouldn't we all try to be mindful, if we could be, of our death?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, for me, the light body is a really important subject in my artwork. And I think that there's something about the imagining of one's physical and sort of psychic, energetic components, it adds dimensionality to the self system that we're operating with. And to understand that we have that light in us, as you're pointing out, and it's possible to do practices of various kinds that can help us to lighten up and brighten our own field, and in that way radiate love and light into the world and into our creative activities, whatever they are. And so I think that there's great application of the subject. And that's why we're here today, because we support you in this project to bring luminosity into the minds of many.
Empty, there ain't nobody. Illusory, transform to rainbow body. Clear light shining, calmly abiding. Great perfection, rainbow body. Empty, there ain't nobody. Illusory, transform to rainbow body. Clear light shining, calmly abiding. Great perfection, rainbow body.